Good afternoon. I've got faces that I've seen before and maybe a couple of new faces I haven't seen before. You may not know who I am, but I am an economist. I don't do anything real. I just think and put out ideas and all that kind of stuff. But someone seems to love me out there in the rice world. My customers, I'm with a company called First Grain out of Austin, but really everywhere. I've got contacts all over the world, actually. And can you start it up? Okay, I can do that if you go to slideshow, and then you go to first slide. Okay, so my name's Milo Hamilton, and I've been involved in rice way too long, maybe like 37 years, something like that. And I've been a buyer for 18 of those years, bought about $100 million worth of rice. With the team, we bought way over that amount for pet food, candies, and rice all over the world. But I focused on the Gulf Coast and the Mississippi River in my business. And in 2000, I started up this company advising people I used to buy and sell to. And I've gotten pretty good support. I've seen a lot of change. I see a lot of change coming. I don't know which entity is going to do well, but we've got Indigo up in Memphis. We've got Rice Exchange in Europe, and then out of Switzerland, a fellow named Arnaud is trading rice swaps out of Bangkok, and 5% rice there, 5% rice in Vietnam, and 5% rice in Pakistan. We've never had anything like this. And the swap business out of the Black Sea area for corn and wheat has gone way up, and it's backed by the CME group, which is what you trade through if you do futures or options in rice. It's a big exchange. It's a well-fortified clearinghouse, the deepest clearinghouse in the world, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through two things. I'm going to show you how I view the rice market, try and put it in Peter Rabbit English, and then I have some complicated slides. I got a critique from one of my customers that they're too complicated. So if you raise your hand and you say it's too complicated, I'll go on, okay? Just kidding. Then I'm going to look at how the world's organized, and then I'm going to look at what you need to do with your balance sheet so you stay in business next year. Because selling at the top of the market's impossible, buying at the bottom's impossible, but you can do the kind of things your banker does with spreadsheets and do it yourself and granulate what you're doing, percentagize it, and it will help you out in the long run. This past year, here's a quote by a buddy of mine. I don't know if any of you know him. It's really complicated. It says, if I don't mind, I'll come around. I'm going to plant the crop. The good Lord's going to make it grow up and come up and grow, and I'm going to water it, and the water runs downhill, and we're going to harvest it. That seems very simple, but he got a 1,000-acre farm with that business plan. No one else had a business plan. They just wanted to rent the land. And if you think about it, it's a combination of things we can control with our equipment and our knowledge of farming, and things that are totally out of our control, in the hands of Mother Nature and God. And business is like that, but it's so much true in agriculture, where a lot of what we do is out of our control. Not only Mother Nature and God, but also trade and countries and big, strong people butting heads right now. So what I'm going to do is talk about trade, talk about a stool with a bowl of rice on it, and how I see that as the world rice market. And then I'm going to granulate it down to action plans for you and your farm, okay? Any questions so far? Hopefully I can make good on that promise. Okay. I'm going to get a quick neck looking at this thing. The rice market is a stool with 3 legs, and if you get one of those legs wrong, you're going to lose a lot of money. This past year, people said it's bearish, we're growing rice, the world price is very low out in Asia, but we have a price in the Western Hemisphere, and that comes out of South America and out of the Gulf Coast here. And that's very important, along with the dollar. And so from starting in April with the extreme high water on the Mississippi, and then a lot of the rain every day, and the curtailing of the growth of the crop, we had less rice. And I really got bullish in April, and I told people, sell when there's a profit, don't sell now. And some people may have sold a little early, I hope not, but I have rumor that they did. Our people are still finishing up their selling, and they'll be done. Then they got to go to new crop. I'll give you some ideas on new crop. We all have to work together to come up with ways to price in a crop with the acreage going up to way up, okay? So the stool has a bowl of rice on top, okay? That's the rice market, and underneath it are the legs. And there's a leg out here in Asia, and that has a lot to do with trade. You heard the ambassador today. It's very complicated. I could spend 2 days talking about trade deals happening in South America, okay? So it's geographical, and each one has a separate price and market, and then the trade in between. And this leg can be very wobbly. And there's a gentleman in the back of the room that understands how wobbly it is. I'll be interested to see what you think of my talk, Dwight. So what we've had is we've had a breakdown of the world order, and it's turned into these three people for rice. One is Trump, who's not really a rice growing kind of guy, and Xi Jinping, who has a lot of people in his country that grow rice. Oh, hi. And then the president of the head of India, Mr. Modi, and each one is very strong. It's very unusual in the history to have three extremely strong leaders at the same time. We've been so surrounded by bureaucrats for so long, it's just like, it's kind of amazing. And they all have strong opinions, and they're very shrewd within their countries and have a lot of power, okay? So this is the Asian leg of what I call the rice trade war, okay? And how this factors itself out will affect. Back in the closest we have is 1994, when Japan agreed to buy rice from California. That price has been higher since then, partially because of that. And what they did was they bought rice so they could have access to our automotive markets. Had nothing to do with the need for rice. Things are going to happen, have nothing to do with demand and supply and price, that are going to affect your price on your farm as you go down the line. You have to start listening to the news, but you have to plow through it. So here's what Trump doesn't like. He doesn't like what China's doing. He's put up his hand and he's stopped. He says he wants to stop it. And it's not just that China subsidizes its agriculture. They have 31 different rice subsidies in China. That seems to me to be a bit of a subsidy situation. Hopefully I can you hear me in the back? I'm going to try and move around so I don't get a crick in my neck. I'll read it with you. The Chinese overfinance things, and then they overproduce them, and then they sell the product at a loss, and then they do it for steel, cement, gasoline, electronics, cellular technology, cars, plastics, and rare earth metals. And that's what the Chinese are doing. This is not a business. This is like an enterprise that's financed by the government. And lack of profitability is something that we can look at in the Asian price. It's very low out there. And it's not due that they're a lot more efficient than farmers in the Delta, but they've got a lot more backing by the government than we do to do what they do. And you can add rice to this list of things. And I think Trump was right to pause the whole thing. This is the strangest start as an ag economist I've ever seen. This is the stocks of rice in China just going up year after year, nonstop, and maybe there's a little bit of a production lag now and a little bit of topping of the rice stocks, but I have no idea whether these figures are correct. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not correct. I just don't know if they're correct. India, I believe India, but this one here, I don't know for sure. So what you do is you have to take China and put it off to the side, and then look at the rest of the world and see what the situation is there. That's what I'm going to do now. India, I think, has pretty conscientious with its supply and stocks. Notice it's a totally different topography to stocks from China, which goes straight up year after year after year, whereas India goes up and down, and the world price goes with it because they're the big exporters. Thailand and India are 50% of world trade. Right now, India's down on about 20% on its exports, and Thailand's down 30%. Thailand's down because they've had a huge drought. India's down, not so sure why. I guess it's related to Iran, I don't know. But they've had good weather. They've had bad weather, I should say, up until this period here. And notice how the stocks were regular at a lower level. And now they've had good weather, and the stocks have started to pile up at this point in time. Okay? So it's not a matter of agronomy or anything else. It's a matter of having good weather and then bad weather. Okay? Everybody understood? Okay. In China, they mine where they grow stuff, and that's a problem. Because the mining produces cadmium and arsenic and all kinds of things in the soil that then get leached up by rice, which is a water crop, and it has a tendency to take what's in the soil and put it into the grain. Nobody knows how bad it is, but it's bad. And they're trying to do what they can, not with the situation there, but in terms of water. And they're succeeding. China, over the last 14 years, has done a lot to improve their water situation in China from what it was. They're moving they're moving water from the Himalayas north across the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, and it's a huge kind of project that China can wrap its mind around. India's a different problem. It's not the pollution in the soil so much as the decline in the aquifers. And that's one of your major producing areas is up in the north, and it's getting worse and worse, and they're producing more and more rice and exporting more and more rice. That's the way they do it. So you've got the largest exporter hoping for good monsoons while depleting the aquifers. The hydrologists understand it, the politicians don't understand it. 40% of the population lives on the farm, and those votes count, so we give them away the water, give them away everything for free. Sorry. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you look at it, I mentioned Thailand having a problem. Notice southern Thailand. It's not just this year; it's endemic. Thailand has the same kind of aquifer problems that India has. 50% of the world trade is there. That can't continue, in my humble opinion. So I'm trying to come up with some positive things for you folks in the next year or two that could influence your price. Okay. Rice marches to a different drummer than corn and beans. You could hear that in Dowd's talk, but it's just generally the case. What I watch is the relationship. I know it's a busy chart. I was criticized today about my chart, so I apologize. But basically, the supply of rice in world trade versus stocks are going straight downhill and are at the lowest level since 1960. So if there's any kind of problem in the price, it'll go way up. Very quickly, not slowly. Right now, the price in Asia is going way up, particularly in Thailand it's going up. And in Brazil, you'll see the chart there, the price is going to the moon right now. Okay, so we've got declining relative supplies in the world trade to service the world trade, which is up around 45, 50. When I came to work at Uncle Ben's, it was down around 8 million tons. It's now much larger. Got a much larger universe to deal with than we did when I started the business. Okay. The Americas, a leg, it's tight. I've been saying since April it's tight. Even without all the confusion over the planting season here, I said that South America is tight. Before I do that, I want to just give you a chart, and most of my customers are very savvy, and none of them agree with me on this. So, this is my first rodeo. I started buying rice back in here for Uncle Ben's, and in here we had the monsoon failure, and the price went here, and then the price doubled. Okay, here the went down. It cut through here during the Japanese. I was in for Uncle Ben's on all the rice. In a short period of about 2 or 3 weeks, I owned all the rice for the year. They did very well, and then the price went up. Then you've got another one here, and it broke through, and this was due to South America, and the price went up. Okay, the price went up. And when it went up, it doubled or tripled. This here, I didn't anticipate. Nobody anticipated that. But generally speaking, when a downtrend line breaks for me, I watch the market very closely because generally the price doubles or triples. I don't know why, but it happens. I can't find a reason for this market to go much higher than it is now. And yet, I'm very nervous about it in the point of higher prices. Why don't you ask me questions as I go along to get something that really confuses you? Okay, here's a chart that was done by Rachel Trigo. She's one of the best people they have in USDA. And she showed clearly that we have a monopoly on the export of paddy rice. Clearly. And this is based on a larger crop this year that we're going to export a lot of paddy rice next year. This is a current year-over-year comparison. Now, Brazil went crazy. I was talking to Dwight, and he was talking about all the rice that Brazil exported. It's absolutely correct. They clobbered the market and tried to do it there. I think they're going to export less rice this coming year than this year, and they're going to be a non-event in the world, in the Western Hemisphere, on rough rice, not middle, just rough rice, okay? As far as India and Paraguay go, they're nice countries. They're doing a little bit more, but I think that they won't go much higher than this. They're just not, they don't do rough rice. We're the only ones in the world that do it. It's this little tiny thing. So that's why I'm watching the river, I'm watching South America, and that's why I've been forecasting since April, our exports are going to be fantastic, which they have been. And the price has been pretty darn interesting. Okay, what is going on? What is going on to me is that when supplies in South America are down and trade is down because their stocks and production is down, the price goes up. It happened back here. I was in on this market for Uncle Ben's. Bought a bunch of rice then because I saw that happening. And then over here, it didn't happen because you remember in Asia we had a collapse in the economies, like a total collapse. And now, and then here, and it went up. And then here, it went up, and the stocks are down. We had massive amounts of rice in South America that were clobbering the market and engulfing it in rice. That's all gone away. Look at Brazil. It's going to be a net importer of rice. To me, that's not negative. And these people want rough rice. They don't want milled rice. Because when you go milled rice, you go from a large grain trader to Walmart, and they shut down. What's the benefit to them to import rough rice? Other than Cuba, which is a communist country. They can do whatever they want. So what I'm saying is we're still on the cusp of something. So now I'm going to get into the bear parts. Those are the bull parts. These are the bear parts. One is the dollar was getting very strong, and now it's starting to weaken a bit. This goes with the price. It's called the inverse of the dollar. If this is going down, that's bearish on the market. If it's going up, that's bullish on the market. But I don't know that the dollar's really turned. I'm not an expert on currencies. If this doesn't come to terms, then this market has to give up. So you can't have that kind of dollar relationship, and that's why Brazil is able to export rice without the price going way up. In local terms, we're at the highest price in human history in Brazil right now. Okay, but in terms of dollars, it's going up, but it's not going up all that much. Okay. So what does this mean? It means that if the dollar just held, if the real just held its own against the dollar, we'd be at much higher levels than we are now. And we're getting into harvest up here, but I've been predicting this, and that's exactly what's happened. And so you go down there and you start buying rice, and you get hit by higher prices. Here's another bearish problem other than the dollar, and that is that the beans are falling out of bag. Corn is not all that sporty either. So what we're going to do is we're going to see an increase. I'm predicting 31% increase in long grain acreage this year. Could be wrong. If the beans turn higher, I didn't get that impression from Dow that beans were going to go anywhere but down, which is kind of sad. But we will get a massive increase in acreage in this country associated with lower prices. Just a stab at it, maybe $11. So you've got a period of time in here where the prices are very high because of demand coming on the Gulf Coast until we run out of rice in this area here. When we run out of rice in this area here, we run out of price. When the rice market runs out of rice, we run out of price. And that's the way I've always looked at it. In 2008, I did the same thing. Anyway, for now, we're up at about 69%. Okay, last year we had 53, which would favor rice, but it went down. Why did it go down? I'm sorry I used the word flooding. What it really was, continual rains on the crop that didn't allow the crop to get planted. So we actually had a reduction. I was thinking at the beginning of the year we might have a slight increase, but as we went into the year, it became obvious that they just couldn't get the stuff. They couldn't get the stuff in the ground. Any questions? That's just long grain, not medium grain. Okay. Here's my macro view. I think that Asia's bottomed out. I think the price is rounding its bottom and it's going to go up. It's got a wide range. It got down at the bottom. Now Thailand and Pakistan, they're starting to move up. It's a time of year for that. The spread is still wide. If this market does not move up and this price does not move up, the Western Hemisphere will get out of the world trade. We will just continue to see erosion in our opportunities because you can't grow anything cheaper than that in Paraguay, in Brazil, or maybe in Paraguay. Generally in the Western Hemisphere, we need about $500, otherwise we'd stop growing rice altogether. Remember, we're about profits, not about price policy. Okay. But I think it is bottoming out. There's a number of reasons. Okay? I'll talk about them at the end, my last slide. Hope. Get educated on your rice market. I'm going to go very fast through this because it would chew up a lot of time if I didn't. Okay, I got 5 minutes on this. High or low prices in the spring, what do you do with them? 5 income elements. Your bankers taught you this if you don't want to hear it. It's PLC, which you can't control, crop insurance, which you can control, cash and futures pricing, which you can control, basis, which you can look at and trade the seasonality, which we provide in our service, and marketing facilitation payments. Everybody says they're going to stop. When DC starts doing something, they never stop it. It just keeps going on. Hopefully it doesn't, because then that means our whole trade thing's a total failure. Success with MFP means the whole thing that Dowd was talking about ends up with nothing at all. The cynics, the grain markets are saying that's what we got. Pricing your rice in percentages over time based on price outlet. I'm going to come back at the end of February to Memphis, and I'll unpack a lot of the stuff that I'm doing in 15 minutes. Okay. You've got a toolbox, metal toolbox of ways to get revenue for your farm. You need to use every wrench and every screwdriver and every pair of pliers that's in this marketing toolbox. This was developed not by me, but John Owen, who's a brilliant man. If you know him or live near him, you're lucky. You need to go see him. He's up in Augusta Springs down here. Skiing. PLC payment, market facilitation payments, temporary. I suppose they're temporary. Crop insurance, and you can't control that. That happens. It's like, it just gets chunked out like the PLC. But what you can control is crop insurance. Get an insurance guy to help you out on your farm, because the higher the price goes, and if it trades in November, in February, then you've got a chance of getting a price you can use, particularly when it's high. Classic, doesn't happen too often. Futures market cash sales and basis trading. We emphasize with our farmers basis. We watch it every day. You've got to know where you are each day, a map of each day. Then you need to know what the seasonal trend is. The merchants make the money on the seasonals. That's why they're so brave, is to get involved in the market. So you got a toolbox here, okay? You got to become proficient how to use each tool when it's necessary. Not everything works at the same time. Okay, very quickly, high prices in the spring. You sell futures or buy put options. Same thing, they're a little different. Margin call difference. So if the prices go down, they're high prices in the spring, which is what we have now, is high prices. And most of my customers can make a little money at current prices, okay? But how do you capture those? That's the question. Maybe 20, 30% of your price is not covered by the PLC and the government program. It's outside of that, and you're exposed on that amount of price. Dollars from futures hedge. If the price goes down and you've sold futures, it does that. You get crop insurance if, in February, we can generate enough volume in the November contract. That's not true with corn, but rice it's got lots of liquidity problems to it. I don't know what's going to happen, but you need to be aware of it, and if there's a possibility of it, collect on it. You need all the money you can get to survive. The rest of the crop gets sold at lower prices, not good news. If the prices go up from where you said, you sell the market, and it goes up, and you lose money on your hedge, but you've made a profit. You've locked in a profit. It's not about making or losing money on the futures. It's the level at which you price, okay? No crop insurance payment because the price went up. No PLC because the price went up. Rest of your crop, I'm sorry, sold at higher prices. That's not bad news. That's good news. What I'm worried about is if the price goes up from here. Okay, let's go back once. Lower prices, yeah, okay, so we did that. Okay. This is your daily basis thing. We do a little bit in our publication. I'm about to scale it up in the next 30 to 60 days. But this is mostly in Arkansas. We're trying to find out if we can do it in Louisiana and Texas as the same way. We got a flat price bid at Eastside. They got a new crop bid, even to the board, delivered to the mill. That's pretty good. There's a lot of people just staying under the rocks right now. I've been told that a large brewer up here is going to come out with a price for new crop. Look at it, look at your wallet, decide whether that's useful and you're near enough to take advantage of it, okay? This is just a point in time on the 14th of January. And then you have seasonality of prices. Suppose you're in Texas here. If you sell back here, you're selling at the highest prices in 3 years. And that's where a lot of smart people got sold, and then they rotated over to futures, my customers. We had to jump up here because Louisiana forgot to buy. Push the market up $2 in a week, you know. These things can happen. Arkansas basis started out very weak, and is slowly edged up a little bit. And if you get a deal better than that, even money, new crop, you want to do two things. You want to know how to lock your basis in and how to lock your price in, okay? Now, you're between the river and the domestic market. So you're influenced by the river bid and by the barge rate, which is seasonally, cuts demand during the fall when everybody needs barges, and then it goes dead. Very seasonal type thing, okay? So the Gulf Coast has run out of rice. Texas run out of rice, Southwest. I imagine this will go up right now, $24 a barrel for medium grain right now, Midway wheat. So you're seeing the end of the season, people trying to grab for rice in January, which is very unusual. So any further business between now and new crop for millers in the South is going to come right out of your backyard. So that's good news. You have more demand coming into the market. This is a way to look at it technically. What I'm saying is that the momentum is still not at the top, which suggests to me we haven't reached the top of the market. Every single major move in rice, going all the way back to 2008, this momentum indicator went up to about 60%. We're not there yet, about 40%. And so price is likely to go higher. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with 7 questions and a happy outcome to my speech, which is we could see some hopeful prices up ahead for 7 reasons. Okay. Can you see it back? Can you hear me in the back? I don't have a microphone. Can you hear me okay? Good. Glad to hear that. Okay. Will Trump reshape global trade? Since I got a couple of minutes here, I think of Trump as someone a little bit different than other presidents. It's a pretty obvious statement. But he may be a game changer. He may not. He may just botch the game up. He certainly broke it down global rules that have existed. There was a guy named Alexander the Great who was a great conqueror, and he went in and looked at a thing called the Gordian knot, and he said, how do we untie that knot, Alexander? And he says, simple. He took out a sword, whack! That's what he did. He went on to take out the Iranians. You know how he did that? I mean, the Persians. He taught them to grab the beard, open it up, and cut their throats. He took out the whole army that way. He's that kind of guy. These people are not nice people. They're not normal people. We like to get along with people. Alexander wasn't that way. There may be some of Trump in that, him there. I'm not lobbying for Trump. You vote for who you want. When you go in the booth, nobody knows but you. But the other one is Alexander is Columbus. Great discoverer, not a military guy. They were trying to balance an egg in Genoa at a bar, and he said, I know how to do it. He grabbed it, poke, knocked it into the table, and it spilled out everywhere. He said, I got it balanced, don't I? He went on to discover the Western world. These kind of people don't think like we do. We want to get along. We've got a set of rules. We want to work within the rules. Then along comes a guy who doesn't do it. There's been some really bad guys like Hitler and Stalin the same way. They come from all walks of life, and some are evil and not so evil, but our global order has changed. It's come apart, and it's all going to be little groups of people working together and not. And then there's rice production, unprofitable prices. The last 15 years, the average world yield on corn is now 10% above rice. That's killer. People want to get out of rice. In Vietnam, they don't want to grow rice. The government makes people grow rice in Asia, but they don't want to grow it. They make more money in corn. And it's not like here where you go and you look at the ratios of beans and corn and you decide what you want to plant. The government says you do this. It's rice first, not profit first. And that's just the way it works, okay? So rice production could be going down, incomes can be going up, and reshape rice production. They may still eat rice out in Asia, but they'll eat it differently because they'll have a lot more money. We're going to see a huge increase in the middle class in the next 30 years, and they're going to go in the cities. It's a world that we haven't even experienced yet. And I think it's full of opportunities for entrepreneurs and food people. China keep growing rice on contaminated soils. What China's doing is their agriculture and their mining are in the same place. So they get cadmium and arsenic and all these things at the same time in the same place. That's not a good idea. We don't do that in this country. But they've got a lack of land, so it's reasonable, but it's dangerous, okay? And I don't know what they're going to do about it. They've solved the water problem. How do you solve contaminated soil? An extra $2 or $3 trillion is what you need. It is an expensive project to undo all the damage you've done. And as I said, rice is like a wick. It pulls everything out of the soil and puts it up in the head of the grain. Okay? Cold climate could get colder. I don't know. It's variable. Some people are global warming, some aren't. The jury's out for me, but I've seen some pretty wild weather in the last year. 100-year rains coming into the Delta, volcanoes, and earthquakes, and that kind of thing. Will China buy U.S. rice and buy long grain? I didn't ask the ambassador the question because he did make a prophecy that said they'll buy $300 million worth of rice. They bought 10 tons, but they never shipped it, so they haven't really gotten there yet. So we'll see if that project that the Trump administration has will change the attitude of the Chinese. The only reason the Chinese would do it is they want access to a market. They're not going to do it because they like us. And then Indian exports, how can those exports keep going up and the water getting worse and worse? It's a time bomb. Any of those will result in much higher prices in the world market. Because once Asia backs off, the whole level of prices come down. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Thank you. Is there any questions? I've got, you can sign here, and I will send you a copy of our, do you have a pen? Yeah. I have a, before you go out, if you want to, I will send you a copy of a report here.
Thailand groundwater. I was surprised by that. I always had this been limited. Thailand was pumping out of the river.
I did too.
Rainfall, river.
I did too.
I didn't know they had wells and power units.
But that's a report, which is, can I pass this around?
The rest of the U.S. thinks that we pump out of the
If
Mississippi.
anybody wants a copy of my report,
I guess they do, don't they?
So if you have this huge vein of water around, why don't you use it? NRCS says they'll down pump out of the Mississippi River, so it's the same.
There's some really good studies that have been done. The Indians understand their problem. They understand it. The hydrologists do. The politicians don't really care. That's the problem. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
She's Indian. She's very smart. So any other questions? I'm getting positive vibes about rice and negative vibes right now. Other than the fact we're going to get another 500,000 acres. And maybe the price goes back down to $11 or something. But on the world stage, 500,000 acres is nothing. And as I said, I'm looking at the potential breakout, and I can't tell you how that would happen. But every time it's broken out, I didn't know. It started up, then I discovered there was no rice in Thailand. We had a crop failure. And the next one, the Japanese bought, but I knew it was starting up. I didn't know what it was. And I broke that trend line. And then South America, in 2003. And if you knew what was going to happen, the market wouldn't be what it's at. But I'm just warning you guys that when you go and you make your hedges, you better watch them. Because if something breaks loose, then what you're going to have is a market that screams. We've seen screaming markets before. Everybody, all my customers say, I don't know what, I did a good job from April till now, so maybe I'm too full of it now, but I was telling people that this would happen. I just didn't know that there's a possibility of some catastrophically high prices down there. And I can't tell you why. But I didn't know before. I didn't know why before. Until finally the fundamental thing happened. All I know is that India exports are down 15 to 20%. Thailand's are down 30%, and they're half the world market, and they're delivering the rice to the market. That's just a fact. And the prices in Asia are going up. Does someone have the thing back there? Oh, okay. You can hear me in the back? My gosh, my wife always says that I don't talk very well. I get lost in my thoughts. But I've got a lot of people that take my service, and I love what I do. I love particularly the farmers, and I have medium-sized and huge farmers that take the service. And if anybody knew who my clientele was, they'd take an interest in it. If they don't, it's all anonymous. I've got customers who don't want anybody to know that they're taking my service. That's fine with me. I'm a professional. I'm not here to gain a reputation. I was thinking about asking Dad the question. The question I was going to ask him was, do you think that we could have a China situation similar to Japan, where back in 1994, after they had a crop failure, they came in and they started under the WTA by 500,000 tons of rice.
And by the way, what he said was about 300,000 tons in China. That many millions at $500 a ton. It's about 600,000 tons of rice. What would 600,000 tons of rice, long grain, do in the Delta? I don't believe it's going to be medium grain. If it happens, it's going to be long grain. Why? Because China is exporting medium grain. They need long grain because they've got stocks that are not probably accurate, and it's full of stocks which have problems in them. If you bought U.S. rice, and all the people that over there, the U.S. Rice Producers Association, USA Rice, say they want the rice. Japan said it's contaminated. They stuck it in storage for animals. And so, can you move it forward? Can you move it forward? Thank you, Shane. So, pardon? So, if China takes 600,000 tons of rice out of the South, you won't see low prices. That's exactly what's happened in California. Why do you think medium grade prices are so high in California? Taiwan and Korea and Japan buy rice from the U.S. In the old days, it used to be the cheapest stuff out there. $2 a hundredweight. I remember at Uncle Ben's, the California price was the lowest price out there for medium grade. How quickly we forget. So we're not going to have just demand and supply. We're going to have trade creating price anomalies. If you look around the world, in Latin America and out in Africa and Asia, the farmer price is $15 to $18 a hundredweight. They're not cheap. It's very high. It's these crazy exporters who are getting subsidized, like Vietnam and Thailand and these places, and particularly India and now China, that are running the price down. It's not because they have lower costs of production. So trade could change this thing on a dime. And I got the impression from Dowd that he wasn't born yesterday. And I've talked to people who think a lot of Dowd. What do you think of Dowd? You think it's good or?
I think it's good.
There you go, someone that actually knows what he's talking about, not me. You can leave now, right?
But I need a cup of coffee.
You what?
But I need a cup of coffee, so I'll be sure after that.
Okay, well, I'll check with you after the cup of coffee.
No, I think he's good.
He's one of the best we've got in the whole Trump administration. And Lighthouser wasn't born yesterday either. They are, and we've got an SEC Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue. I sent him a copy of my annual report. I don't know if you read it or not. We have some really interesting characters. For a small amount of time, they're going to be interested in agriculture. I don't know how long it's going to last. Because basically, what we sold agriculture down the river to get other big global issues done, and we haven't gotten anything for it except getting kicked in the face. Or is there something that I don't understand? I all appreciate you all coming, and I love what Ruth's got to say because I think it's the future. Indigo, the online trading out of Switzerland. We have facilities that didn't exist 5 years ago. And some of them are going to work out. All entrepreneurial things do well or don't do well.